This program has been made possible in part by
Fiber expert Deborah Robson is here with me today to talk about keeping those knits and crocheted items that you spent so much time on looking great. Hi, Deb.
Hi, Eunny.
So what's the real deal with pills? Why do some things pill and some things don't?
Well, pills seem mysterious, but they're actually really easy to explain. They happen because of damaged fibers that are in the yarn, or mixed fibers where you have differential friction and some will move out of the yarn. And they happen because of abrasion between fabric surfaces or the fabric and the world. You end up with broken fibers that move to the surface of the fabric. They tangle together. They create what we know of as the pill. And then ultimately they break off or we take them off.
Well, then some knitted items can look great for years without any kind of pilling.
Yeah.
Like these ones to your left, I think you said were vintage sweaters.
These, well, vintage, I'm vintage, right? These are 30 and 40 years old.
Wow.
And have been worn that long. Now, the reason that they look really good, and they have never pilled, the reason was because of the fibers that were selected, the way they were spun, and then the way I knitted them, and the way I've cared for them. So all of those factors affect the fact that these are really durable.
So that's kind of one spectrum
Yes.
of the pill equation.
Right. And these are yarns that I bought way back when. We are asking manufacturers to produce different kinds of yarns for us now. Many people walk into a yarn store, me included, and pick up a yarn and go like this and say, ooh, squishy, nice, soft, how wonderful, I love it. That yarn is often going to be prone to pilling.
Well, these are some great experiments that you've done here.
Yeah,
Let's take a
I
look.
had a good time. These are yarns that people said they had had problems with pilling
And they
on.
are the kind of yarn that you just described.
They are, yeah. And some of them actually are yarns that I use without having trouble with pilling, but I found out that I use them in different ways than the people who had problems with them. And one of the things that I did was I knitted 2 swatches of each, and then I took one of them and I really treated it very badly. I took a scrubber for dishes with the rough surface, and I just went like this to try to act like they'd been around for 30 years being worn. And yeah, I worked up pills. So I thought, okay, why is it going on? And so I took the yarns apart to see what was in them. And in this case, it's a pure wool yarn, but the fibers are all different lengths. And they have been dried out a lot in the processing, which sometimes can't be avoided. So when it's spun up in a single strand, this has a fair amount of twist in it, so it actually holds together reasonably well. The fibers will migrate out, they're broken, they're going to do that in terms of the pilling. One of the ways to mitigate that is to work at a slightly tighter gauge, not one that gives you a board-like result, but that stabilizes the fabric.
And you can even see the difference between.
You can, yeah, and it's still pilling some, but not as much. Yeah,
Okay.
right. So sometimes you just have to deal with a bit of that. These are all blends. Some of them are blends with natural fibers, and some of them are blends with synthetics. They are also all singles. They are also softly twisted. This one in particular, people were saying pilled on them when they felted it. The wider gauge that is used for felting doesn't stabilize those fibers as much as a slightly tighter gauge. So there's more movement, and felting is movement. So the fibers move to the surface.
So it's really about how you, swatching with the yarn and kind of getting to know
Swatching is
it
critical.
and deciding what to do with it.
Right, and making up your own mind, not necessarily believing the ball band.
Well, and then what about plied yarns quickly?
Yeah, plied yarns also pill. When I separated these out, I found that the singles that were composed them were fairly softly spun. And again, these are both blends. This one too has a tweed component in it that is very flecky. It actually isn't secured.
It's almost a pill in itself.
It's almost pill in itself, and it's going to gather other fibers that will pill around it.
I see. Well, but sometimes we do want to use these really soft,
Oh, yeah.
lovely feeling yarns. I mean, what can you do to prevent your pills before they happen, or at least head them off?
Before they happen, checking your gauge, making sure you're working a nice fabric that you like that is reasonably tight. When you've got pills, the thing to do is snip them off, okay? So nice sharp scissor, snip it off. If you pull them, you're going to break the fibers and you're going to continue the process. And we all like to, if we got them, pick them off. I do that too, but if you can discipline yourself to snip them off, it's far better. The other thing to do is make sure that you are washing them appropriately, avoiding abrasion, using something as a scouring fluid that doesn't further dry out the fibers.
Something really meant for
Something
washing,
meant for washing fine protein, but we're talking protein fibers mostly here. Something that is gentle, that washes out easily. You want to minimize the wear, you want to minimize residues, and you want to make sure that you're not drying the fiber any more than it already is.
So even with with that kind of careful gauge selection, careful care, and then managing the pills carefully once you've got them, a sweater can last for 30 or 40 years.
Oh, easily,
and still
yeah.
look great.
50, 60, 70, 80, 100. The one thing that may be misleading is the sense that a fuzz causes pills. Not always. This one is just as old. It hasn't pilled. It's an adult mohair. It's resistant to pilling. It's been worn just as long.
Well, thanks so much, Deb.
Thanks, Eunny.